Hi everyone, welcome to my channel. My name is Chris and today we're going to talk about seed starting. There are 3 things you absolutely have to start seeds. Number 1 are the actual seeds. The seeds you pick are going to depend on your climate and your growing season and what you like to eat, of course. If you don't like to eat peppers, then there's no sense in growing them. So make sure when you pick your varieties of seeds that you pick not only what will do well in your area, but what you will actually eat as well. And that brings us to the second most important thing that you'll need to start seeds indoors, and that is soil. There are many different types of soil you can use to start seeds. There are seed starting mixes that you can use. You can use potting soil like I have here. You can make your own soil mix if that's what you prefer, or you can use a medium just like peat moss or coconut coir if you choose to. The only thing I would say about using either dedicated seed starting mixes, peat moss, or coconut coir is that those mediums don't have any nutrients in them. So you're going to either have to up pot them into like a potting soil that has nutrients, or you're going to have to add like a fertilizer like worm castings or something like that. When your seedlings emerge from the soil and have used up that store of nutrients that is in the seed itself, they will have something else to feed off of to grow. If you don't add any nutrients or put them in a soil that already has nutrients in it, your seeds aren't going to have any nutrients to take up and they're not going to grow. Along with the soil, you'll also want to think about what container you want to use to grow your seeds in. These are just some of what I have. I have these pots. These are 2 different styles of pots, but they both work equally well. Then I have this, which is just an old strawberry container that I have my onions started in. It works perfect as a little planting container. I love it when you can recycle things like this instead of just either throwing them in the trash or the recycling bin, especially because most of the plastic you throw in your recycling bin doesn't actually get recycled anyway. So if you can find a use to repurpose something like this, I think that's wonderful. And onions are the perfect thing to grow in a container like that. My newest adventure in starting seeds is this soil blocker. This is a Ladbroke 2-inch soil blocker. I don't have any soil blocks ready to go yet because I haven't actually used this, but I will, and I'll link the video below. This is basically making a block of soil like what's in here, but without the walls of the pot, if that makes sense. So you just have 2-inch by 2-inch by 2-inch square of soil that you put your seed in. It works amazing to start plants. The third most important thing that you need to grow seeds is water. Now these 3 are the absolute essentials no matter what your setup is. It doesn't mean that depending on what type of setup you have that you don't need other things. I like to put water in a spray bottle. I feel like this is the most gentle way to water in seeds when you're first starting them. Especially if you're surface sowing seeds, you don't want those seeds to kind of move around and be disturbed a lot. I find that the spray bottle works really well when you've just planted your seeds or when they're just starting to pop up, like these calendula. You don't want to kind of pour water over these because these are still just getting established. If I were to just dump water over these using, say, a watering can here, then I could disturb the roots of these plants. It could impact the way that these plants grow. When they're just emerging out of the soil and getting going, or when they're seeds, the watering can option is not the best way to go. That's why I like the spray bottle. If you're starting seeds inside, a tray I find is essential. This is a 10 by 20 tray from Bootstrap Farmer. I've also used 10 by 20 trays from Jiffy that I get at just, your Walmart or big box store. I just like these a little bit better because they're sturdy and they don't wobble as much when you pick them up and try to move a tray of seeds. They're not going to crack on me like I've had the Jiffy containers, the Jiffy trays do. And it's kind of nice when you're moving seeds to not have them end up on the ground. Because yes, that has absolutely happened to me before. If you're starting seeds outside or in a greenhouse, then the tray may not be quite as essential, or you might want to get a tray that has holes in the bottom, especially if you're using like a hose or something like that with a spray nozzle to water your seedlings. You don't want the water to just sit and pool at the bottom of this tray. You're going to end up with overwatered seedlings. And overwatered seedlings, or seedlings that just sit in water, are a breeding ground for things like dampening off. If you've watched my videos where I'm starting seeds in a container like this, then you'll know that I don't sift my soil before I plant my seedlings in a pot. But if you're using a soil blocker, sifting is very important to make sure you're not getting that woody debris that could impact the way that your seedlings grow and their roots develop, and it could disrupt that block staying in an actual block and not just falling apart. In that case, you need some kind of sifter. This is a sifter that I made that I do have a video on. I will link the video below if you want to learn how to make this. It's super easy. It really only takes a couple of things to put it together. You can do it in probably less than 10 minutes if you have everything gathered. They're really useful when starting seeds. Even in a container, it's useful to sift out that woody debris, just so that the roots have a really nice, fluffy, easy soil to work through as they're growing and getting established. And then of course, you have to have something to sift your soil into. Anything will work. A bucket, a tub like this, anything that will hold the soil will work perfect to sift it into. This right here is just a bus tub from my local restaurant supply store. I don't typically use this to sift soil into, but it was the only thing I had when I was doing it earlier today, so works perfect. This here is called a Clyde's garden planter. I wouldn't consider this essential to seed starting, but it's something that I highly recommend. So this is the spring, and then on the back side is fall. And you can line up this red line with when your last frost date is for the year, or in the fall when your first frost date is. So mine is roughly April 15th, so I line it up in between the 12th and the 19th. It has the list of different vegetables here, and then it tells me when I need to start the seeds inside or when I should direct sow them, if there are seeds that can be direct sowed. If you don't have one of these, I highly recommend them, just because I find this really helpful when I'm planning my garden, so that I know exactly when I'm supposed to start each type of seed, because they're all different. If you don't have one already, I will put a link to this in the description below so you can check it out. And if you haven't already and you're enjoying this video, please hit the like button so YouTube knows to show this video to more people. Now let's go see my setup and the last things that I think are necessary if you're going to start seeds indoors. So we're here at my seed starting station, and this has the final 3 things you'll need to grow the best seedlings that you can. First are shelves. You have to have some kind of shelving to hold the trays of starts. This is a 3-foot metal shelf. I got this on Amazon, and I'll link it below if you're interested. They also have 4 feet shelves. Just in my space, the 3-foot ones fit a little bit better. The second thing is lighting. These are Barina LED lights. This is the second year that I'm using these particular lights, and I love them. You can see from my starts that they're doing really well. Plants won't grow without light. If you're starting seeds inside and you don't have like a sunroom or some kind of south-facing window that gets a lot of light, then you're gonna have to supplement it with artificial light. This is just my preference in light. I've used shop lights before and they've worked fine. They have all kinds of fancy grow lights that you can use to grow your seeds. And I'm sure many of them will work just fine. When picking lights, make sure that you pick them for the space that you have. They're not too big or too small for the number of plants that you're starting. And make sure that they're going to be bright enough. I'll put a link in to these in the description because I can't remember how many lumens they are, but you don't want to get just a basic light that's not going to be bright enough for your seeds. Then you're going to end up with seeds that are leggy and not very strong. Or you're going to end up with stunted seeds that aren't really going to grow. So a good lighting is essential. And the final thing that I think is very important when starting seeds indoors or even in a greenhouse is a fan. So when you put a fan on your seedlings, you don't want it to be really strong. We're not trying to give them like 20-mile-an-hour gusts or anything. We just want a light, gentle breeze blowing on the seedlings for a couple hours a day. You don't have to run it all the time. A couple hours a day is perfect. The reason that we put the fan on it and we want to blow that breeze is because we want to simulate the outside environment as much as possible. And that light breeze is going to really strengthen these seedlings. If you don't give them any breeze at all, and they're just used to a very still environment, then when you go to put them outside, they're going to struggle a little bit getting used to that kind of environment. I think the fan is really important to create strong, sturdy seedlings that are gonna do great outside. Those are the things that I think are important when starting seeds. Not everything I put in here is essential. You have choices, especially, in the containers you use, in the trays you use, how you water, but you do need your seeds, your soil, some kind of container, or like the soil block. If you're starting inside, you definitely want a tray to put them in to make sure that those seeds are in a stable place and the containers that you choose to use are not going to tip over, which is heartbreaking when that happens. Trust me, you don't want to do that. And you also have to have some source of light and some kind of shelving system. It could be just your dining room table. That works perfect too. You don't have to have a dedicated shelf, just something to put those seeds on so they have a place to live until they're ready to go outside to be planted. And then the fan. If you're starting in any kind of an indoor environment, whether that be inside your house or inside your greenhouse, just giving them a light breeze, you'll really find that it makes a big difference in the strength of your seedlings when you go to put them outside. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, it would mean so much to me if you'd hit that subscribe button, and if you hit the bell next to it, you'll get notifications when I upload my next video. So I thank you so much for joining me today, and I really hope to see you next time.